Hi, I'm Carrie Barr. I am at the Grimes Farm and Conservation Center for Story Hour. We have Story Hour every first and third Thursday, so tune in any first and third Thursday to watch Story Hour. And when we get rid of this COVID, you can come back out here and we'll read stories and take a walk. So today we're talking about tracks. Maybe you've seen Tracks in the Snow, and I have this great book picked out saying Let's Go, Animal Tracks in the Snow by Diane Polly and illustrated by Marion Hall. And the illustrations are fabulous in this book. Okay, hooray, hooray, it's a sunny day. Let's get dressed and go out to play. Let's zip up our jackets, put our hats on tight, mittens to warm our hands. Now we're all dressed just right. But wait, look out the window. What a sight. Something happened overnight. From the tops of the trees to way down below, everything's covered with a fresh blanket of snow. Where do the animals go in the snow? That's the question I'd like to know. Let's explore with our eyes. Let's look for their tracks. Maybe they were here last night looking for snacks. Are the birds in the trees? Did they fly down looking for treats? Look, here by the bird feeder, can you hear their happy tweets? The squirrels scurry to and fro looking for acorns in the snow. Then back to their nests in the trees they will go. Look, bunnies were here going hop, hop, hop. Let's follow their tracks to see where they stopped. The fox is swift and clever, roaming at night, looking for a tasty morsel or just a quick bite. His prey better hide and be quiet as a mouse. Quick, scoot back in the nooks and crannies of our house. The deer were here, how do I know? They left their tracks in the snow. Hungry, they explore at night, looking for greens, returning to the woods at daybreak, hoping not to be seen. Snow falls from the trees with a great big splat. Missy, our cat, doesn't like that. I think it splatted on Missy. Rufus, our dog, likes to run and to play. His tracks in the snow go every which way. Our boots make tracks too all over the snow. Let's follow them back to know where they go. They lead us towards home, that's where we should be, so cozy and warm with cocoa and cake for you and for me. Looks like someone had a birthday at that house. And that's the end of your story. Emily has lots to tell you about tracks. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for joining us for Nature's Story Hour. That book is about tracks, and right now is the perfect time to be outdoors. We've had some beautiful spring weather, I dare say it, but we've got the snow melting, it's getting muddy outside, and it really is a great time to go out and look for animal tracks. And you don't have to go far. You can find animal tracks just outside your house. But I'm going to talk a little bit about animal tracks and how you can identify them. The activity I put up for today is about going out and finding animal tracks. It's animal track bingo. So you can take those sheets out, or you can just take your phone out and see how many of those different types of animals you can find. Now, when we look at animal tracks, for example, I found a track that looked like this. I don't know if you can see it very well. Outside on the Grimes Farm Trail, and if you can't see it, it's kind of shaped, well, if I do it like this, it's shaped like a heart. And it's got two toes. One, two. This is one of our most common tracks we find out here at the Grimes Farm. So it's got two toes. You'll notice it's sunk down deep in the mud. When a track sinks down deep in the mud, that means that the animal's kind of large. If I was to go and step in the mud, I would sink down further than if my son, who's 2, stepped in the mud, because I weigh more. So if we find a track that's really sunken down deep, that animal weighs a little bit more. So we can tell this is a pretty deep track, so this animal weighs quite a bit. It has 2 toes. We can also know, since I found it out here on the trail at the Grimes Farm, it's in a wooded area. So if you were to guess, what do you think this could be? If you guessed deer, you are correct. Do Deer tracks are probably one of the most common. They're fun to follow as they walk along, and they're a heart-shaped track. So if you find a heart-shaped track, you're looking at a white-tailed deer. Here's another track that I found in the mud. This one I found by the prairie. Down by the creek, there's a little muddy area by the prairie. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. Okay, so this animal has 4 toes. Any ideas what these could be? Those are toenails. So if we see toenails, we have to think, what animal's toenails are out all the time? Another thing with this is, this is a big picture of it, but this track is only about 2 inches. Now, there's other animals that have tracks like this, but they're bigger. So we have to take into account the size of the track. If it is a big animal, they'll have bigger tracks than smaller animals. So this is about 2 inches, so only about that big, really. It's got 4 toes, it's got toenails. It was found by the prairie. And a little trick you can do is if you can draw an X through the track, then you know it belongs to a dog. And those toenails also help. Now this isn't a dog that we would find probably a pet dog because it was down by the creek. And so it was probably a wild dog. Now we have 2 types of wild dogs here in Iowa. We have coyotes and we have fox. Well, 2 inches is a pretty small footprint, so more than likely this is a red fox. So if you thought this could be a red fox, you are correct. Another hint that could be is that red foxes like to live in prairie areas, so that red coat helps blend in. That's where they camouflage. So where you find the track is really important to think about as well. So you can think about the size of the track, where you find it, the depth. Those are all things you have to take into consideration. Let's try another one. Oh, this one's fun. I found this one outside my house. I live in town. Oh, let's see here. How many toes does they have? 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. We should check to see if it's a dog. Can you draw an X through it without going through the toes or the pad? Nope, it's not a dog. Some of these tracks might look familiar. This track might look familiar to you. So it's not a dog. Oh, and this one's really small. It's only about 1 inch. So it's a pretty small track, about 1 inch. No X. You'll notice there's no toenails either. Well, that makes me think it's a cat because cats pull their toenails back in. They have retractable claws where dogs don't. And we already did the X, so we know that doesn't work. Only 1 inch. Now, we have one cat that lives here in Iowa, that's established here in Iowa, and that's a bobcat. And their tracks would be a lot larger. And bobcats are not as common. And, well, they probably wouldn't be living in my town either. So what kind of cat lives in town? A house cat, a domestic cat, your pet cat. So this is probably someone's pet cat that left their tracks outside my house. When we think about dog tracks too, we have to think about, it could be a domestic animal. So it was a house cat track. Okay. Oh, this one's a fun one. These are very common along the river, muddy riverbanks. Little bit different. How many fingers do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's not a dog and it's not a cat. What lives around a river? What else can we think about? These guys are about 3 inches, so fairly large. And when you look at a track like this animal kind of waddles. Something interesting is that when you step back and you look at all the tracks or the trackway that the animal makes, you can tell that they walk in a pattern. So for example, you can watch how rabbits hop, or you could watch how deer walk, or it's how some animals bound, like otters. This animal, though, waddles back and forth. So it lives by the river, it waddles back and forth, and its hands look an awful lot like our hands. If you find this little baby hand, you are probably looking at a raccoon track. And of course, they like to be near that river's edge because they eat the things that are in the river. They also like to eat food down there and get water to drink. So they like to live in those wooded areas by the rivers or riparian areas. So that's a raccoon track. Okay, let's do one last one. I found this track. Found it in the wooded area. Oh, we've got 1, 2, 3 large toes. That looks very different than the other tracks that we've been looking at, doesn't it? It's about 4 inches. That is a big track, so it's a big animal. You can see that it's sunk down a little bit. What else? In the woodlands, it's got that. It also, oh, I found this along with it. Ah, a feather. Lots of times we think about mammals or mammals that leave tracks, but we don't think that birds leave tracks, but they do too. In fact, Carrie was just telling us about how she saw pheasant tracks in her yard. So birds leave behind tracks too. But this is 4 inches, so it's not a pheasant. It's bigger than a pheasant. Do you know what it could be? It's this bird, the wild turkey. And this time of year, they're getting ready to make nests, lay eggs, and mate. So they're getting quite rambunctious and getting ready for spring. Kind of like us, we're getting ready for spring, right? So when you go out and you look for tracks, you have to take in the whole picture. You really have to look at your environment. Look at what type of habitat you're in. Is it woods? Is it prairie? Are you in town? Look at the size of the track. Not only how big it is, but also how deep it is. Remember, bigger animals will sink more. You have to count the number of toes. You can tell a lot by the number of toes of the animals. And of course, just kind of take in the whole picture and think about what animals live here in Iowa. Are we going to find elephant tracks here in Iowa? No, not really, probably not. So just kind of take in the picture, think about what you're seeing, and enjoy the beautiful weather and the muddy slop while you're out and about, because it's a great time to be outdoors. I hope that our paths cross soon, and I hope you have a wonderful spring.